Welcome everyone, and today we're going to be talking all about how to launch our video. And this is part 5 in a series of 5 of how to start video marketing. So what are we going to learn today? Specifically, we'll talk about how the importance of understanding the platform or the platforms that we're going to be launching onto, because most of the sorts of platforms that we'll probably be using, they all have nuances and differences in terms of not just the way that they support video, but also the way that the users on those platforms actually engage with those videos. And in some cases, the differences are really enormous. So having an understanding of that, not just when we produce and edit our content, but also how we launch it and then how we go on to promote it is really important. And then I'll sort of break down a 5-step process, the key elements for launching to most platforms. Now, obviously, every platform works slightly differently in terms of the way that you launch video and then subsequently go on to promote it. So what we'll do at the end is we'll deep dive and I'll show a live demonstration of uploading content to a few of the different platforms, the main ones, let's say. Okay. So just do remember, the strategy template that associates this series is in the notes, and you'll find the link somewhere near where you're watching this. So know the platform. So we've got to imagine that when we're launching our video, we're actually launching onto a stage, and that stage is likely to have an audience that is expecting a certain type of format, and they're a certain type of audience. So the types of audience that go to a West End theatre are slightly different from the expectations of people who are going to a cinema versus someone who's going to a rock concert versus someone who's going to Glastonbury. And we've just got to ensure, because we are going on their stage, we've got to ensure that our content is appropriately sort of set up to work on the target stage. So this is, if you like, this is a cheat sheet for all of the main platforms that we might be sharing video. And the key things to look out for are, video length. So this cheat sheet, what the cheat sheet is telling us is the sorts of limits and maximum and minimum limits that each of these platforms will allow. But what's also really important is it's not just about the limits, but it's also about what works and what doesn't work in terms of video length, in terms of video shape, and file size. Potentially quality of video might have an impact. So if we look down here, in general, what we're going to see when we look at this cheat sheet is that the most of the platforms do have some sorts of limits on how long content can be. So Twitter, for example, is 2 minutes 20 seconds. It's not physically possible to upload a video that's longer than that. So obviously, if Twitter is one of our platforms, then that's a key component that we need to remember in our planning. Instagram, the in-feed limit is 1 minute, so it's 60 seconds. If you're going to IGTV, which is the bottom one here that's connected, actually, increasingly connected directly to Instagram, then you can go a bit longer. You can go to 15 minutes. And depending on, if you're a verified profile and you've got more than 10,000 followers, you can actually go for up to an hour on IGTV. On LinkedIn, the maximum limit is 10 minutes. And it's much shorter on TikTok. The platforms that sort of stand out that allow very long content are YouTube, which will let you go up to 12 hours, and Facebook, which will let you go up to 4 hours. In terms of formats, in terms of shape, for YouTube, it is landscape. If we're creating video that's primarily intended for YouTube, if we go anything other than landscape, you can upload square content. You can even upload portrait content. The tool will allow you to do it, but the engagement from the audience will be significantly decreased because the expectations of the audience are for landscape content. Pretty much all of the others, you're talking about square, and in some cases, you know, in some cases portrait. But square video, you know, is pretty much the expectation for those other platforms, not least because the vast majority of users will be on mobile devices. Then the other thing I suppose that's relevant here and worth talking about is what the platforms count as a view. Now, in general, YouTube is very strict about what it counts as a view. So unless a user has watched at least 30 seconds of our content, then a YouTube view, you know, won't be counted. If you're talking like a platform like Facebook or Twitter, then it's just a few seconds. It's 3 seconds. LinkedIn, although it says on this table that it's not available, I have it on very good authority that a LinkedIn view is actually 10 seconds of viewing time. They've recently increased it slightly. It was 5 seconds before. So it's fair to say that a view on YouTube is worth more than a view on most of the social media platforms. Okay. So in general, in my view, there's a very strong distinction between videos that sit on the classic social media platforms, meaning, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you know, and LinkedIn, versus video that sits on YouTube, you know, or within Vimeo, or video that might sit within your website, or video that's going to be part of a seminar or some sort of training course like this that you might be delivering over a platform like Zoom. And in general, one set of videos are essentially, from the perspective of the viewer, interruptive in most cases. And what that means is the video just kind of appears in their feed. They haven't actually intentionally sat down and said, I'm going to watch a video about this, or I'm going to join some sort of event that's going to incorporate video, which is what the latter have, you know, are more inclined and to be. And just that fundamental difference, it raises some significant differences around the way that people will find and engage with our content. So if we talk then, you know, initially, let's just sort of summarize around the social media. So this is the interruptive stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even LinkedIn type platforms. So in general, they are large and busy platforms, which means there is a large audience. So it can be very you know, attractive from a kind of a reach perspective. We can get a large reach, but because the process of engaging a user with video is in most cases it's interruptive, meaning it's just appearing in their feed, then in most cases users might watch a few seconds of video, and they might even watch enough for it to be registered as a view. But what you find when you look at analytics for, you know, for any video on Facebook versus a platform like YouTube, is that the reach might be high, but the average duration will be very, very low, meaning only a few people are actually engaging with the content beyond 30 seconds, for example. And so it then becomes the case that if you are making video for any of those types of platforms, it's really important that the first 5 seconds really jumps out and catches the user's attention. Because if it doesn't do that, it's unlikely to, you know, you're unlikely to bring the user on the journey with you. And so what it means really is, when we're creating video for these types of platforms, we want to front load the good bits of our video, if at all possible, without ruining the context of video. We want to bring forward the, you know, the gotcha moment if possible.
Elliott, are you going to share with us your 5-second grab? for the
Yeah,
videos that you've got there?
It's actually a really good question, and the truth of the matter is that the video that I'm going to show you today as part of the demo, I've brought forward a 5-second grab. The videos that I've been doing up until this point, the 5-second grab has really been missing. It's kind of, well, that's not true to say. I mean, my 5-second grab initially, and with these videos, let's look at them. I think they're sitting here. The 5-second grab in these videos is me asking a question. So, for example, on the social media one, I'm trying to remember exactly what the question was, but it's something along the lines of, let's just look at it. So I do not consider myself a social media marketing expert. Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah.
So, and did you hear the video?
Yeah.
So the idea with that one was that's me experimenting with a technique that I heard on a podcast talking about video marketing that was saying, you know, try and be controversial or try and be, you know, contrarian in something. So that was me saying, I am not an expert in social media, which is, you know, might be an abnormal way of opening a video. I've sort of come to the opinion that actually what is a better first 5 seconds is just something that's, you know, either some piece of action, or, you know, something, you know, loud or big or grabby, or if there is going to be, you know, if it is going, in this case it's a vlog, you know, it would be me saying something that's just you know, a little bit different and not potentially not exactly what people would expect.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, but look, it's a really good question, and the truth is I definitely have not nailed this. I know that I have not nailed this, but I think it's my belief is that it's incredibly important because of the research that I've been doing around creating this series. It's absolutely clear that the successful videos, particularly on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, need to have a really grabby first few seconds.
Okay, thanks.
No problem. It's a really good question. Keep them coming, because I think the important thing to say is because the first 5 seconds you're going to grab the actual yeah, obviously most users we won't grab, but if any user who's interested in whatever we are front loading our videos with will be more likely to stay longer. But equally important as engaging that particular user, because of the nature of the way these algorithms work for all of these platforms, in particular these social media platforms that we're talking about, if users are engaging that video in greater numbers than normal or than other videos or than our previous videos, then the algorithms will more likely promote our video to a wider audience. So it's kind of like we want to do it for the real world benefit of engaging a real world person, but it is a really significant signal to the automatic robotic algorithms that decide whether or not to promote our videos even to our own audience. Okay, we'll come back on that point because it's quite an important one. The other thing to say is that on the social platforms, so yeah, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you know, Twitter, those guys, you know, TikTok as well. The half-life of a video is days, and what that means, it's not like the video, it doesn't get removed from your profile. The algorithms will only really promote your videos for like days or, you know, potentially a week. So something like LinkedIn, you know, if someone likes or comments on a post of yours that is that you've posted more than a week before, it invariably means that they've been on your profile, they've gone to your content, and they've proactively seen it. The actual algorithms will not be serving our videos to people in their feeds because the algorithms won't do that. Okay, and then yeah, and while we're on that, just to give you the guidance, if you're talking about something like, you know, Twitter, you know, you would be if you post a video every day, you know, you're not going to interrupt the reach of your previous video, if that makes sense. You know, and that's true of Facebook. You know, with LinkedIn, you know, you can post 2 or 3 videos per week, and it's not going to disturb the reach or engagement of your previous video. Having said that, if you post to Facebook 5 videos per day, you will materially degrade your reach and your engagement, if that makes sense. If we want to have consistent engagement over a platform like LinkedIn, and we want to, you know, we want to grow on LinkedIn, we're serious about it, if we're doing less than 1 video per week, then we will have dips of reduction of engagement. So you want to have 1 video a week, or even 2. Yeah. When we get to the back end of this, throw any questions about this sort of stuff to me, you know, that you want, because it's important, you know, everyone's clear about what we're saying here. Now, when we talk about the other like video platforms, as I'm sort of terming them, so obviously YouTube's the really big one, but you know, Vimeo's another one, and there are other video sites, and we you know, if we're loading our websites, if we're loading video into our websites, then we can consider that sort of a content platform. The thing about these places is that, unlike the social media algorithms, there's more possibility, or in reality they can act as almost like a library. So when you've got something like a YouTube channel, you can set it up as a library for your content. So I have to say, I'm late in on YouTube, really, but having started to make those LinkedIn videos, I realized that it makes sense to have a library somewhere so it's always accessible. And I think even if you're thinking to yourself that YouTube's not really the channel for you, because in reality it's very difficult to get reach on YouTube, it kind of makes sense to use it as a library for your content, because in addition to acting as a library for your content, from a platform like YouTube, it becomes relatively easy to embed video into a website. If you're, you know, and we're talking about video marketing for business here, embedding video onto our website that's coming from a YouTube channel that you own also has significant benefits in terms of search engine optimization. If we put the right titles and descriptions on our YouTube videos, then you know, if we embed them onto our website, it then helps our website. But if we put the right titles and descriptions on our YouTube, then we also potentially make ourselves visible on YouTube itself. A lot of people refer to YouTube as the 2nd biggest search engine in the world, because increasingly consumers are using it for search. So it's worthwhile considering YouTube. Okay, so are there any questions before we move on?
Elliott, you were saying about the number of times per week. Our
Yes.
idea is to have 1 video per day over a week. Yeah. On LinkedIn. You think that's too much?
Well, I think what's important is that if you're going to, if, and I hope all of you do, but if and when you start this, video works over the long term. So what were you planning to do after the first week?
Well, we dream up our next thing, but this is just an idea that will take about 7 days or so, and the idea is to engage the audience throughout the week.
Yeah, to give you a really straight answer, I would actually say I would advise you to reconsider that, and actually create 5 videos and run them over 5 weeks to start with.
Okay.
I don't know, Sam, you're nodding. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree with that, because like you've said, what you're going to do after the 5 days is done, but also there's an element of just, so even though the algorithms on some of the social media will only highlight it for a couple of days, there's still an element for other people to catch on and see it. So you know, it will take a few days for it to kind of embed as well, I think, for people to sort of you know, sometimes you can go on to LinkedIn and there'll be something from 2 days ago that you haven't seen, because I've set my priorities and things on LinkedIn to show me things that I'm interested in. So therefore that should sort of cut out. And I think if you go, like my brother-in-law, he's a tennis coach, he did a challenge and he uploaded all 5 videos, one after the other, and people didn't know what one came first and what one came second, and he sort of used all his content, and then he didn't have anything to do for the next 3 days. So I think it takes a while for people to digest things. Sorry, I'm going to stop talking now, Elliot. But I'm with Elliot on that one.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, the only thing is that they're going to be quite short videos, and the idea is that connected, they are one interview. So I don't know, that'd be a 5-week long interview. I don't know if that would work or not.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe 2 a week, like Tuesday and Thursday. I think the other, you know, the other thing is people have it takes quite a lot of times. So there's a saying, Elliot, I think it's probably more, I always put it down to what I understand, but whacking someone 9 times on the head before they know your brand and things. And if you've wasted that 5 all in like a short period of time, you can't keep whacking them over the head, you know.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
we'll need to think about that, won't we?
And Elliot, just on that, I don't know if this applies to videos, I think it does. I saw something on one of the social media platforms the other day, which had the times and days when the audience is most engaged or receptive or looking at certain types of content. Just have a quick look on my phone, so I did take a screenshot of it. But there are certain days and times that you're better off posting than others.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And there's actually quite a lot of tools that do that. Hootsuite, if you connect your social channels to Hootsuite will tell you that. And then there are lots of other third-party. There are lots of probably websites where you can just put your social media profile and will analyze your audience and tell you when they're online for that network. Just to go back to the Ali and Jordan thing, like Sam, Sam's completely right. But just something you said at the end there, Jordan and Ali, it sounds like it's sort of one video, but you've sliced it into 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I would probably say, you're right, it doesn't make sense to spend it over 5 weeks, but I would then say make it 1 video, probably, or 2.
Okay. Could you use, sorry, could you use, like you said about YouTube, use YouTube as the library, upload all 5 videos to YouTube. So if someone kind of wants to watch the next one, they can, and then the other 5 as one whole video, they can go to YouTube, but you're releasing it marketing wise slowly.
I see.
There's lots of different tactics. I suppose the main reason I sort of said don't go for 5 in a row first, the main reason is because, just to clarify, next week I'm going to do 5 in a row of these videos that I've made. But remember, I've got, MintTwist running workshops quite a lot. I'm between the MintTwist channels that I'm sort of running and my channel, there's quite a lot for me to sort of play with. And my concern is that if you go 1 every day next week and then you don't do anything for 4 weeks, the value of the fact that Ali and Jordan are now showing up on LinkedIn, it will drift away. So like a real live example, I haven't made one of my LinkedIn videos for like 2 weeks now. I've just made one today for in part for purposes of this. But in that time period, I'm sort of talking about what I'm going to be talking about forward. One of my KPIs for what I'm doing on LinkedIn for myself is to raise awareness of myself, my profile on that particular platform. And so the key KPI is, when you go into LinkedIn analytics, you can see how many people have viewed your profile over the previous 90 days. So that's like my indicator. And since I started doing those videos, my profile views have just been going up and up and up and up and up. And they've always been going up ever since I've been doing that for 4 months. And they've actually more than tripled. But because I've stopped for 2 weeks, I'm now down on where I was. So it's for the first time in the last 6 months, I'm dropping off. And it's a direct result of what I was sort of touching on a bit before. The algorithm will show your content to people for some days, maybe up to 5 days, and then it will stop showing your content. And your content is a vehicle for, if it's good and all the things we've been talking about, it's a vehicle for you to create awareness for yourself and or your business. And so that's my reason for saying, if you've got 5 pieces of content, that's brilliant. And if you feel like you can make a video every day for the next 3 months, then follow that tactic. But I would suggest that start slow and pick up the pace as you go, rather than the other way around.
Okay. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yeah, no, pleasure. But do make sure, because it sounds like you guys, I know you've got a really good plan for your video. So if they're all interconnected, I totally agree with what Jordan said. It shouldn't be over 5 weeks. Clearly, you don't want to ruin the message. Just think about that.
Yeah, we'll have a think. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else before we go to the next section? Okay. What's that? Okay. So launch plan. Look, I'll run over this. We've spent a lot of time planning. We've spent a lot of time producing. We've probably spent a lot of time editing. So we put in a whole amount of investment. So what's really important now is that we launch and then we subsequently market our content to the best of our ability, because a lot of there is some misnomers out there that if you've got the right content out there, then that's all you need to do. Look, I think, don't get me wrong, the content has to be right for your audience and for your objectives. Absolutely it does, but by itself the content won't work. We need to proactively market our content and launch it correctly, and then market our content going forward. So that's why we need a launch plan. So let's talk about the 5 key steps for launching a video, and these are generic steps that are relevant to most of the platforms, but individual steps will be more or less relevant to different platforms. Once we finish this section, we'll dive in and we'll look at some detail. Okay, so thumbnails are really important on YouTube, and actually LinkedIn has literally just within days, at least for my profile, they make rollouts at different points in time for different people, but this is now a feature on LinkedIn as well, and it will be a really important one. The thing here is that well, first of all, if we're creating a series of episodic videos, as we've been sort of suggesting is the best strategy, then our thumbnail should be representative of not just the video, but there should be some form of consistent branding of that thumbnail to represent the series itself. Let me silence my devices. Yeah, so and then the next thing we want our thumbnail to do is it obviously has to be representative of what the video contains. Now there's different schools of thought here. Some people are saying that the video should be visually representative of what the video contains, meaning it almost has a cut, some sort of cut from the video itself. And some people are saying that you don't need to do that. It just needs to be representative, in some other way. And it's really important that you sort of play and experiment with thumbnails. But in general, what we're trying to do is maximize the number of people who actually proactively click through off a thumbnail into and actually go into watching our video. And the reason why this is so important is that the difference between a really good thumbnail and a really poor thumbnail is enormous. And to actually give you some sort of numbers, if we talk about something like YouTube, a really good click-through rate would be 15%. And what that means is, if when you do a YouTube search, if we go into YouTube, and we run a search for anything, it doesn't matter what it is, digital marketing agency, let's say, then we're going to get a list of videos, and it's human nature that we're going to gravitate to a thumbnail that we like. Now, the thing about this is, so this is a search that might be typed into YouTube, potentially by 10,000 people on a monthly basis, something like that. The number is something like that. So all of these videos here that are in the top 50, they might be, as I scroll down, what's YouTube is recording here is this is an impression. So it doesn't mean that I haven't clicked into this video yet, or this video, but both of them have been served to me as an impression. So if these videos are getting 10,000 impressions, and a good click-through rate is 15%, to make the maths easier, let's say 10% is a good click-through rate. That means that this particular video, if it has 10,000 impressions and 10% of those people click into it, it means it's got 1,000 views. Now, if you just take the default thumbnail when you upload to YouTube and you just let it go, it will be more like 1 or 2%. And so those 10,000 impressions will actually only be 100 or 200 views. So in the case of YouTube, there's an entire army of agencies and consultants that do YouTube thumbnail optimization. It's actually a massive thing. So for YouTube, it's really important, but it is also important for the other platforms as well, because what is that first image that they're seeing as they scroll down their Facebook feed or their Twitter feed or their Instagram feed? It's going to have a big impact about whether they actually click and hang around, i.e. to take that impression and make it into an actual view. And now that LinkedIn's allowing thumbnails as well, it's going to go a similar way to sort of how it's going in YouTube. Does that make sense? Are there any questions on that thumbnail stuff before we move on?
Yeah, it's sorry, Elliott. It's just you might come to it, but it's probably a bit late. But it's just occurred to me. Is there any particular channel, LinkedIn or Twitter, that is more valuable, for the business? I mean, I guess it depends on the business, but is there a particular channel that you should definitely do? It sounds like it's at least a combination approach. The short video, the Twitter, to kind of get that reach, but then maybe there's high value somewhere else, like say LinkedIn. But is there an algorithm for that as well?
Oh, sorry, it's a really good question, Mike. It's a really good question. Let me, so obviously the full answer is it definitely is dependent, on your audience mostly. But just to avoid the boring answer and give you a more direct one, when I showed this slide earlier on, let me just go back to it. So on this slide here, the way I see it is over here, over this side. So I've got a reasonably large audience on Twitter, and it's growing quite quickly. But what I see with the videos that I serve on Twitter is that the reach is quite high. The engagement is relatively low, but I see it as it's like a breadcrumb. so that if someone wants to explore more, then they might go to the YouTube platform and they might watch the playlist, or they might go to my LinkedIn profile. So for me, for my strategy, and it's similar for our agency, for MintTwist, and for many B2B companies, you would see, LinkedIn as a more like engaged platform where you can have a more, a deeper, fuller experience and interaction, with your audience. So you can almost see it like a sort of a marketing funnel. So some of the social platforms like, Twitter, and possibly even Facebook and Instagram, depending on how you use it, sit at the top, and you've got sort of LinkedIn a bit further down, and then your actual website is sort of at the bottom of the funnel, or possibly your YouTube channel. Does that answer the question?
No, it does actually. Thank you. And I was just thinking back to your point, Ali. Does that would it make sense therefore for say Ali, for example, to post all 5 videos on YouTube, and then as you release them on say LinkedIn or Twitter, if they do click through or do want to find more, they can go to YouTube and actually see the whole, all the content there. There's a library already built there.
Yeah, that's definitely a play. The thing about YouTube, just to be like clear, YouTube is like really is hard to grow on YouTube because of the number of videos, the amount of sort of competition. So I think if I were Ali, I would almost be putting the videos on YouTube so that I can embed them on a service page, and then the link from LinkedIn would be actually go to my website page rather than go to YouTube itself, if that makes sense.
Elliot, if that's too technical, and I'm not for people, I was wondering as well, maybe, so I have like, I used to sort of have like Traders Badabish years ago, and I've kind of reignited that page. And if I posted my videos on there, I have a very small audience on that page because I haven't built it. But if I then shared it to my personal page where I have a bigger audience of people on LinkedIn, could that be a similar process? So they haven't got to go to YouTube, then embed right now whilst they're starting? I don't know.
I want to make sure I understand the question. I think in general, if we're going to use video on a platform like LinkedIn or Twitter, it will perform 3 or 4 times better if we natively upload it to that platform. If we upload to YouTube and then share from YouTube to LinkedIn, it will be 25% of the reach than it would otherwise have been. So my recommendation would always be to upload to the platforms natively, particularly the platforms that are important to you. So if LinkedIn is important, then definitely upload natively. The benefit of YouTube is sort of, as you've been saying, as a few of us have been saying now, you can put the stuff on there, and then in the comments on the video you can link back and say go and watch it on YouTube, or go and watch it on my website, which is actually YouTube embeds on a website. Anyway. Did that answer the question?
Yes, it did. Yeah, I was just, because I wondered, I knew that as soon as you put it up, obviously that's going to get the most interaction, and as soon as you copy it, but I just wondered if I wasn't patronizing the people on the group, but whether putting it on YouTube and then embedding it might be a process at the moment too far. That's all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. Look, I mean, there's lots of steps involved here, and later on in the demo I'll just show how to upload to YouTube. But the thing about YouTube is if like we're all going to be creating video, I've sort of learned it does make sense just to put it up there, I think. And then what you do with it thereafter, you definitely have to think about, and you've got to have the right strategy.
Okay, I'll be quiet now. Thank you.
Sam, keep it up. There's really good questions. I think conversation is the way for this to go. So let's keep it up. But all right, I'll move. Where was I? No, we were here, weren't we? Yeah, thumbnails. Okay. Okay. So after the thumbnails, so in general, it's really important because we're compelling users to make the move. And, you know, hopefully the sort of numbers I gave you, if you've got 10,000 impressions, a click-through rate of 10%, which means you've created a good thumbnail that's resonating with people, is going to have a really materially massive difference to the long-term success of your channel, certainly on YouTube, but also the click-through rates on inside a LinkedIn feed or a Twitter feed. I'm just going to let my cat out the window. There you go. And you know, and so looking at, you know, the extent to which we can look at what are the click-through rates of my thumbnail inside the analytics, and I'll show this later, it's an important step. Okay, the other really important step obviously is the title and description of our content. So if we're talking about a social media post, it's obviously the content that we're putting alongside the video. You know, if it's YouTube, then there's a description and a title and some other things. But in general, what we're trying to do on either of those platforms is entice people in. Again, you know, it's similar to the thumbnail. If we write our titles and descriptions in an engaging way, we're more likely to have a larger number of people actually engage with our content. If you were using a platform like YouTube, you know, having an idea about what is our keyword. So if it's you know, interviewing tips is what our video is about, then interviewing tips is the keyword. So we make sure it's in our title. We make sure it's early on in our title. Just SEO 101, Google algorithms and most algorithms always read, when they read a title or a description or anything, they'll always read left to right, and they give most weighting of the words that are leftmost. So interview tips, leftmost in your title, and the first thing you say in your description, you know, that would be a sort of sensible way of doing that. So tags, you know, on inside LinkedIn posts and Twitter posts and Instagram posts and Facebook posts, you can put hashtags. So again, your most, you know, my rule of thumb is 3 to 5. You know, our agency will typically, when we're advising people, you know, clients, we would say, you know, don't go down the road of putting 25 tags in. You know, it sort of diminishes, it doesn't really give any value to the algorithm, and it diminishes, yeah, it has the ability to make the post look a bit spammy. So I would say, you know, pick 3. But definitely do use hashtags, they're important. Inside YouTube, you know, you have the ability to put many, many more tags. So it's up to 500 characters. So you can put, like, in YouTube, it's something like 25 or 30 tags. The reason why it doesn't look spammy now is because YouTube have re-engineered their platform so that the tags feature doesn't show on the video. It's there for the algorithm to associate your video with what it's supposed to be associated about. It used to be the case that you put, like LinkedIn or like Twitter, you put hashtags in a YouTube description. You don't need to do that anymore. You just write a description. There's a separate place for tags. I'll show you that, you know, a bit later. Yeah, I'll say it now in case we don't come to it. When if we do want to link back to our website or to a YouTube playlist, something like that, my recommendation is that you don't do it in the description. You comment on against your video, and that goes for Twitter, it goes for LinkedIn, it goes for all of the social platforms. You know, with YouTube, you can put links in the description, and that's okay. So with the social platforms, avoid links in the description, just post the native video and put the links in a comment against that post. With YouTube, you can put links in the description if you want. There's a tool called Google Trends, which some of you might have heard of, that, you know, you can go in and use, and you can look at the UK, and you can see what, you know, you type in, you know, a base keyword, and then you can see what keywords are trending, and then you can, what you do is you want to find popular keywords. So, you know, interview technique or interview tips, you know, what, to what extent are these being typed in you know, into Google search, meaning all of the platforms in the UK, whichever is the most popular way of talking about our subject, that's obviously what we want to use.
Sorry, could you repeat why we can't put links on social media platforms in the description section?
So you can do it. There's nothing stopping you, but the algorithms, if they see links taking a user out of their platform, that is a signal to the algorithm to dampen the reach of that post. It's a similar reason to why using a YouTube link and embedding it onto LinkedIn or Twitter, that will get less reach, because LinkedIn and Twitter want people to stay on LinkedIn and Twitter. They don't want them engaging with another platform. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, so the next thing to consider, you know, as well as those points, is how can we, making me think I've missed the slide now. Oh no, it's back there. Yeah. So how can we leverage video in, like, if to the extent that it is possible for us to leverage video and it doesn't sort of ruin the context inside our website, you know, or inside events, or can we include it, you know, in our newsletter or email marketing campaigns? You know, if we can do that, it definitely makes, you know, sense to do that, particularly if we've got, you know, if it's our website, it's going to be a relatively engaged audience. So, you know, so why not share it with our audience in these places? I'll just drop out here and I'll show you. Are any of you familiar with the LinkedIn events feature? Okay, I'm going to show you this because I think this is quite a hot tip. It's a relatively new feature, meaning relatively new, meaning like it's only months actually. They actually rushed it out because of the coronavirus thing. Let me just open another tab so that so as a LinkedIn user, whether you're a business page or an individual, anyone at all can create events inside YouTube, and you can go to this little section here and you can press the plus button, and then you can give an event a name, digital marketing course. You can upload a thumbnail, you can upload a logo, you can upload a background image, you can say it's an online event, and obviously, you know, in these times there are lots of these things going on. And then you can put a link, and this link can be a link to a Zoom chat, it can be a link to you know, a website page, it can be a link to Eventbrite, it can be a link to, yeah, it can be a link to a YouTube live stream scheduled thing, a Facebook live stream scheduled thing. You set the date and time, and you set it to be a public event, and then it will create on your profile. So earlier on, yeah, I want to discuss it. Delete that. So early on, I've created a series of events, and one of them, and I've created the events under my name and also under as MintTwist. So I've created it as the page and as, yeah, as myself individually. Yeah, and you'll probably recognize these things. So this is what I'm going to be streaming, you know, next week, and I've set these up as events. The benefit of doing that is once you've done that, by itself, this won't get much reach, but what you need to do is click the invites and click the share, and it will make a post about it. And, you know, this thing, it starts a conversation from within the event. So this will give me the ability to invite, I think I've got a feeling it's up to 500 people from your connections. I think they've put a limit on there so that you can't just invite everyone, but it's 500 as limits. It's quite high. And then this, by clicking this, you share it and it will create a post, you know, about the event. So the benefit of doing this is that anyone who, once people start to say they're interested, is that when it comes near to the time, it's going to show up in their notifications. So this is LinkedIn's version. Probably you may or may not, probably you do know, but Facebook's had this for years. So Facebook has exactly the same thing as well. But obviously, you know, there's all sorts of events that are going on. We've got webinars and Zooms and, you know, closed events. It doesn't have to be, you know, public facing events. Can we leverage our video for events that we're running?
So Elliott, I've got an online workshop I'm doing on the 11th of June, and I've started putting some posts out. And thank you all for liking the posts I'm putting out. I think you've all liked and shared and stuff. Thank you. But are you saying I could do this in addition to the posts I'm already sending out, or is that a bit of an overkill?
Losing my mouse. No, absolutely you can and you should. I would highly recommend you do it. And by the way, I'm sorry, I've been utterly inactive on LinkedIn for about the last 6 or 7 days, so I haven't been engaging as anywhere near as much as I should. But once we're done today, I should have some more time on my hands. But no, I would 100% use that event feature in LinkedIn.
Okay. Wow. Gosh.
I also, sorry, I also don't think there is such a thing as overkill, especially not in marketing, because you might feel like you're being a stalker, but not everybody sees everything. So you might, you know, use those tools to help get it out there.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant idea. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, yours. Okay. Yeah, and email marketing is also a good idea. If you've got an email marketing list, then obviously try and include your videos in that, because once people know you're doing videos, you know, if it's right for them and they're interested, they'll be on the lookout for it, and they're more likely to, you know, to want to engage your content. Okay, so number 4 is motivate early engagement. Now, every single one of the platforms we've spoken about, the more the engagement that you get in the first, you know, few hours is more important than anything as a signal to the algorithm to share your content more widely. So if you've ever had a piece of content that's sort of gone trending or gone, you know, viral, even in a modest sense, it's very likely that you had a lot of engagement on that piece, that post, or that piece of content early on, you know, for whatever reason, and it just lights a match for most of the algorithms, you know, under the piece of content. So that the things to sort of ask yourself is, can you share your content, you know, with colleagues? You know, can you email a link to the content to family and friends? Can you share? Can you know, if you're on LinkedIn, do you want to? I actually don't do this, but you know, I'm learning as we go here. You know, can you cross-pollinate from one platform to another? I wouldn't do that, you know, overly, because most platforms don't like people, as we've sort of sending people to other platforms. But, you know, I can tell you there is a tactic that we use for a lot of our B2B clients. If they create a piece of content, whether it's video or white paper or anything, running Facebook advertising to get people onto a LinkedIn platform actually does work really well. Obviously that's paid advertising, but it does work. And then really the thing is, depending on the type of content and the platform, like, can you try and spark conversation around your post? So it's something that I try to do. I think it's for most marketing type content, you're trying to create a conversation. So can you comment against your own post in a way that further encourages conversation? So look, once we're up and running, then this LinkedIn you know, chat that we have, release your videos on that LinkedIn chat, and then the 5 of us engaging with each other's videos, you know, it would have a positive impact, you know, on our content. But as Sam said, I think the other thing to do here is to, you know, it's kind of human nature, especially with sort of us Brits, just to sort of be a bit, oh, you know, I just want to put my content and hopefully people will like it. But actually, you know, let's see if we can help each other out a bit. You know, it does make a big difference. The platforms reward early engagement. Okay, and then the thing obviously that we need to do is you know, once we get going with this, if we can have an understanding of our analytics, then it's going to help us to be able to create, you know, better content, you know, going forward. So let me just drop out of start to demo you some of this stuff. So inside, let's look at Twitter first of all, because the analytics capability in Twitter is pretty good actually. Before I go into this, are there any questions? Are there any questions on anything I've covered? No. Okay, let's go. Let's keep going. Okay, so if you look in something like this is the Twitter typical homepage, you've got this little feature here which will give you some information about that post, and that's a video post. And what you can see is this is the impressions. This is the media views. So it was 3 seconds, wasn't it? So of 1,400, you know, about 10% of people are sort of viewing it for more than 3 seconds. Engagements on the Twitter, every platform, you know, uses the words impressions and engagements and views, but they all have this slightly nuanced in exactly what they mean. So an engagement would mean, in the case of Twitter, it means a click or a detail expand or a like or a reply or a retweet. But for me, the rule of thumb is if you can get impressions to views of anything over 5%, you know, it's pretty good. So I'm happy with that post. Now the great thing about video, we've said it already, is that the engagement with video is far in everything that I know in my role at MintTwist for all types of, you know, businesses and individuals. It is way higher than you know, any other media format, and so that engagement is much higher than I would normally get from, you know, any non-video tweets, and that's really the benefits of video. Now that's sort of the basics, but if you go inside, just for that, in case people don't know, if you go here, you have to be on desktop. You can't get this on your mobile device, but there's actually quite a really good analytics that sits behind Twitter, and it'll give you a lot of stuff about your total tweets over the last month, total impressions, you know, profile visits, mentions, followers, you know, and it will give you all sorts of stats. But if you go further down here, you've got this little video section, so you can actually go in and look at your videos, and it will sort of give you, you know, as I mentioned, I've dropped off, and look, you know, it's had a massive impact on the views and impressions that I've got, because you know, Twitter won't keep resurfacing your video. It will only surface it for a number of days. But I suppose the thing that I really wanted to show is when you look at all of the individual videos that you've run over the last month, and in my case it's sort of 4, the number of views, you know, is you know, broad, like this one's a bit higher than others, but there is a variation in number of views, but there's a significant variation in completion rate. And what completion rate means in the context of Twitter is what percentage of the video did people watch, and it's on average. So as we've sort of suggested already, most people on the LinkedIn platforms, and even more so on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, will only watch a few seconds of a video. So an engagement rate of, you know, of 12.5% it means an on average people watched, you know, 12.5% of the video. If that makes sense. Now,
Elliott, does that not seem quite disappointing though? If you've put in it, I mean, I've watched pretty much all of those, and I would dream of only watching 6.4% of it. If it captures my interest, I'm going to watch the whole lot. You haven't got any 100%.
Yeah, but this is no. But remember, this is average across everyone, so it will never be 100% unless every single person watched 100% of it. So what this is saying is, if you like, this is saying 12.5% of people watched the whole of it, but in reality, it's some people watched half, some people watched almost nothing. But this is exactly the point. It's the nature of the platform. So the Twitter completion rate will be the lowest. LinkedIn completion rate will be somewhere higher, and YouTube completion rate or website, people watching on the website would be, and people watching it from an email marketing campaign would be higher again.
Okay.
Because Twitter's like, you know, loose connections, LinkedIn, closer connections, website, email list, very close connections. So, you know, so when you start posting videos, and you can get similar, basically exactly the same stats on Facebook, and the numbers will be similar on Facebook and Instagram, you know, for me, but not for me, like basically, like in general, people are less engaged on these types of platforms. But so the numbers are, whatever the numbers are, there'll be something like this. But the key thing is you can see there's variations across video type. So you can start to make assertions around what was it about the first 5 seconds of this particular video or that particular video that was good. So once you've been going for long enough, you can start to get data out.
Elliot, just a quick question. How much, you know, you talked about some of the SEO stuff. So, you know, obviously keywords, hashtag, you've got the grab, and again, it's a combination of all these things. How much, you know, how is the hashtag more important than the keyword? Or, you know, is there a view there? Does that kind of count to significantly to how successful a video is or a post is?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. The algorithm, are we talking, which platform in particular would you like to know about?
That's a good question. Twitter or LinkedIn, one of the two. Those are the two I use.
Yeah, so if you, both of those platforms, I would definitely recommend you use hashtags, 100%. If you don't, like, if I posted a video and used hashtags, and if I posted a video and didn't use any hashtags, but everything else was exactly the same, you're talking like, it's kind of subjective, the answer I've given you, but obviously I've been doing this for like decades, so it's a good rule of thumb. You're talking probably about 25% difference. It's not going to double. It's not going to double your reach. It's not going to double your engagement. It will be a marginal increase. There is one thing to add. When it comes to LinkedIn, if you pick the right hashtag and one that potentially isn't overly popular, then you do stand some chance of going in the trending feature. So you can get trending for a hashtag. And if that happens, your posts will get further reach, like significant further reach. So a couple of times, we're talking like 2 of the video posts that I've run have trended. One of them trended for hashtag marketing, and one of them trended for hashtag digital marketing, I think. And they went on to get, so then you would double or possibly triple or possibly quadruple your number of views, because it goes into a trending section. So LinkedIn, you know, pick your hashtags carefully, I would say, in LinkedIn. Hashtags, just to sort of, for anyone out there who's more Instagram and Facebook, you know, I think at some stage in the life of Facebook, and certainly with Instagram, hashtags were absolutely fundamentally crucial. And they're still really important, but it is less so in terms of how much of a boost you get from the algorithm. Does that answer the question? Just while we're on analytics, and before we run out, I'll sort of move on. Inside YouTube, the YouTube analytics is really good. It's like there is so much in here. It's just unbelievable. So, you know, you've got you've got your overview. You've obviously got, you know, how many views the video's got. What's the total amount of watch time that a particular video has achieved over, you know, whatever period you set up here. This is the click-through rate thing that I was talking about. So 5.8% for this channel, you know, is okay. Now, if you wanted to improve that, this has got no faces on it. A lot of people say that, you know, a good thumbnail should have a person's face on it. You know, this is a course that our agency ran, and it was 2 of my colleagues that, you know, that were the sort of face of this course. So should we adjust that thumbnail? You know, there is an argument for saying that. yeah, and there's stats on engagement, and this is where the average view duration comes in. And then you can look at the types of audience. On LinkedIn, unfortunately, as an individual on the profile, the only stats you really get are what you see here. It's, you know, how many views has it got, how many comments, how many likes. If you're managing a business page, then there you do get, you know, quite a bit more stats, but it will only give it to you for sort of business pages. So inside here, you know, there's a decent amount of analytics you can get on your posts. Sorry, not there. Yeah. Oh, sorry, here it is. Show stats. Yeah, so you can get a bit more inside a business page, but unfortunately you can't get the equivalent thing as an individual. Okay, any more questions before I go into a demo? Are there any questions? No. Right, running slightly short of time, but let me just sort of show you. I mean, I've sort of demoed some stuff, but let me cut to a video that I recorded earlier. So just to clarify what's going on here. So these are the two videos that I exported from my iPhone, and then I used, in my case, because I'm on a Mac here, I used the AirDrop feature. So it's dropped them via Bluetooth quickly onto my Mac. Jordan, you're going to need to find a way to get the content off your camera onto your machine quickly. This is, you know, once I've exported, it takes a couple of minutes. And this is the landscape format, and this is the square format. So this is the one that I'm going to post tomorrow on LinkedIn and probably on Twitter as well. But before I do that, I'm going to upload this landscape one to. Why is that doing that? Okay. Oh, sorry, that was. I was going to combine the videos, but that's not the way to do it. Yeah. So I'm picking out. I'm picking out the landscape video, and I'm going to YouTube. When you go into YouTube, you go to something called YouTube Studio. Just for those of you who haven't got a YouTube channel, it's very easy to set it up. And once you've set it up, you go to you log into YouTube. You click on your face, and you go to something called YouTube Studio, and that's where you've got analytics. But if you want to actually create a video, you click on this create button, you click uploads the video. And once you do that, it will let you select a file from your computer. In this case, I'm picking the one that we made earlier, the landscape one, and I'm uploading it to YouTube. Now, when you upload to YouTube, it gives you the option to put in the title and description, the tags and other things. But when I'm uploading, I just put in, you know, the basic title and a basic description. And what I do is, I don't even upload, you know, the thumbnail yet. You can attach it to a playlist. The playlist should represent your series. And then on the next screen, you just set to private, so that when it uploads to YouTube, it just sits there as private and it's not live. And the reason why I don't want it to go live is because I haven't filled out the description yet, I haven't filled out the tags, I haven't created a thumbnail. What I'm doing at the moment is I just want to put it on YouTube so that it's ready to go live, but also so that I can pull down the subtitles file, the automatic subtitles file that YouTube is going to create. So then I can use that for my LinkedIn platform. Because as we said last week, it's really, really important, and I should reinforce it now, that if we're going to put video on Facebook, LinkedIn or Twitter, that we have subtitles. YouTube will automatically transcribe your videos and give you subtitles. Facebook also does that. Twitter does not do that yet, and LinkedIn does not do that yet. So if you upload to LinkedIn without a subtitles file, your engagement will be way lower than if you do put one in. So it's definitely worth taking that step. Yeah, let me stop that video there and then just go back and show you. So because I did that about half an hour before we started this call, let's go and see if it's actually completed yet. Okay, so here it is. Here's that video, manager tips. So I still need to fill out all of this stuff, but you know, I don't mind because it's not live yet. It's still only set to private, so no one can see it except for me when I'm logged in. But if I go to the more options area, it actually hasn't uploaded. It hasn't. So at some stage, it normally happens within half an hour, but at some stage, this YouTube itself will automatically transcribe this 1.5 minute video, and it will put a file here. Let me just go to another video and show you what it looks like. So once it's automatically transcribed it, you can then go and download it, and it downloads as a text file, an SRT text file, and then when you open up that text file, it's just a series of sentences with timestamps on them. You can, if there are some, sometimes, you know, there are some vague mistakes because it's an automated transcription, so you can collect them, correct them, and then press File Save, and then you can re-upload it into YouTube. So you can then, you know, you say replace, and then you upload the automated one with your better one. Sometimes you want to do things like capitalize certain words and put emphasis on certain words. So, you know, that's why it's saying by me, because I took their automated one and then re-uploaded, you know, a mildly adjusted one. But then most importantly, and the main reason why I'm sort of doing this is when you go to LinkedIn and you say, I want to create a video post, we click on there, we go to the video. I'm now choosing the square format video. So the same video, but square format. I'm opening up here. Let it. So that's square format. So when it says video caption SRT file only, I can select the SRT file that I just downloaded, and once I select it in there, it's going to place that text there. Obviously, I can't use that one I just downloaded because it was for the other video. But when this video, when YouTube finished transcribing that SRT file for this particular video, you know, and I can edit it if I want. It's a quick and free way of creating subtitles for your videos. And the reason why, you know, last time we spoke about editing, the reason why I've got this big yellow bar here is because that's where the subtitle text will show, and it will, you know, it will be nice and visible to users. See this feature here? Literally, the last time I uploaded to LinkedIn, which was 2 weeks ago, this wasn't here. So this is very, very new. And this is essentially going to allow you to upload a thumbnail that will, in the feed, will replace this still image with a thumbnail. So just as a final thing I'll show you, we've run over time a bit, so apologies about that. But let me just show you what I use to create thumbnails. So there's different tools. There's one called Canva that's very popular. A lot of people work with. I don't know why. I just like Adobe Spark. I think it's quite cool. And if I show you, so these tools essentially they just make it easier for you to create thumbnails. So these are the thumbnails that I'm going to be using for this series, of how to start video marketing. And then further down, these are the ones we use for, you know, our courses, our digital marketing courses. The thumbnails that I've started using for the LinkedIn videos are these ones. I've essentially experimenting with replacing, I used to just leave my face in, I was essentially trying to experiment with what's the difference between click-through rates versus my face with a thing overlaid it versus just something focused. Sorry, my machine's slowing down here, so it's not letting me scroll up. But the newer form of you know, the newer form of graphical thumbnail like these. It's still relatively early days, but so far I haven't noticed any difference. So, you know. Okay, and then yeah, there was one final thing I wanted to show you, and it's just to make the point. Again, I talked about Twitter early on. There's actually another component of Twitter that not everyone knows about. So there's something called Twitter Media Studio. If you Google that, you actually, and you just log in, you get to a point where you can upload videos into Twitter. Incidentally, the Square video that I'm going to upload on video, because it was 589 megabits, it's actually above the file size limit that Twitter's allowed. So I'm going to have to go back to my iPhone and export it at a lower resolution so that it's a smaller file size, and then I can upload it into the Media Studio. But the benefit of doing it here rather than just doing it on your homepage and just tweeting from your homepage is that from within the Media Studio, you can schedule your content to go out at any time that you want. Okay, and yeah, that's, I think, from a demo perspective. Would anyone like to see anything else? Has anyone got any questions or comments or thoughts? Okay. All right, good. Look, so hopefully that was useful. Let's just circle back to the, you know, to this presentation. So, you know, I showed you uploading to YouTube. We talked a bit about uploading to LinkedIn and Twitter. You know, and earlier on we were talking about the steps to launch that position ourselves, you know, for success on the platform, and some of the things that we can do. And that brings us to an end, not just of this episode, but to this series of how to start video marketing for your brand, business, or organization. I hope it was really helpful. And once again, thank you so much for being part of it.
I feel really sad it's over.
I know, so do
Thanks,
I.
Elliott.